Hi everyone! I'm super excited that after so much gray and rainy weather, we finally have a beautiful sunny weekend. And you can see that spring is almost here, so we'll be working in the yard today, and I'm going to share some design ideas so you can see what sorts of things I'm dreaming about for my garden. Before we do that though, let me give you some quick background info on the yard. When we bought our home a few years ago, the side yard was nothing but grass and a single rose bush next to the house. Not a lot to work with, but the good thing is that it's a blank slate, so there's lots of design opportunities. The not so great thing about the yard was the fence. It was super old and falling apart. We were hoping it would last a little bit longer, but after a bad windstorm, the rose arbor collapsed, and so we had to move that project up the priority list. The other problem with this yard was, with the fence being so low, we had zero privacy from the neighbors. So last year, I worked with a local company and designed this new fence, which will be the framework for the new design. I really love how it turned out. Even with nothing growing on it yet, the yard feels much more private. After a long winter though, the yard is looking a little rough. And by rough I mean it's a total hot mess, so I'll be working on cleaning it up this weekend. Now I kind of have a love-hate relationship with yard work, but since this is the first nice weekend this year, it's super lovely to be out here. And who doesn't love the smell of a freshly mowed lawn? This is one of the things I love about having a house, is a little outdoor space, even if it's not huge. We put in the raised beds a couple of years ago, and I have to say, I absolutely love growing herbs and vegetables to eat. I am kind of terrible though about cleaning up the beds at the end of the growing season, so that's why they look like a cry for help right now. Nothing that a good old hoe can't fix. I have the power! Aside from all the weeds and stuff, the soil has compacted unfortunately, so I'll need to loosen it up before I can mix in some mulch and plant some seeds. If you've never tried growing your own vegetables before, I highly recommend it. Not only is it satisfying to eat something knowing you've grown it yourself, but also if you use organic methods, you don't have to worry about any pesticides on your food. One of my favorite things to grow is lettuces, because they taste so much better than anything you buy at the store. And it's super fun to walk outside to snip a few leaves for a salad, or harvest a giant zucchini to make some zucchini bread. That still counts as a vegetable, right? All right, one bed down, one to go. On this second bed, I think I'll take out the big dead stuff before working on the soil. I happen to find this old carrot in there. Something tells me I probably shouldn't eat it though. If you want to make your own raised beds, make sure you don't use pressure-treated wood since those chemicals can leach into your soil. One other tip I'd suggest if you want to grow vegetables is to make sure you only grow what you actually like to eat. There's no sense in spending the time and energy in growing something that you'll ultimately not enjoy during mealtime. There's nothing quite like getting your hands dirty and working the earth. Especially for me, a strapping young man who is definitely not out of shape. Nope, not out of shape at all. In fact, I'm not even tired. Okay, so maybe I'm not a spring chicken like I used to be, but at least the beds look better.
We're gonna call it good for two.
The next day, after plenty of rest and some Tylenol, I decided to tackle this climbing rose situation. When the guys put in the new fence, we asked them to save the rose bush thinking that we'd be able to drape it back over the new arbor. But, well, roses are thorny and we also got kind of lazy, so it's sort of been like this all year. However, the rose has grown all kinds of new branches, So I've decided that these fallen branches here on the side can go. Just cleaning this up will make a huge difference, especially since we'll be able to use the gate without having to squeeze around spiky rose thorns. Once this area is cleaned up, I can move on to the trough beds. I love these. The troughs remind me of back home in Texas. I am from a small farming town after all. And they're great for planting herbs. We have some parsley and tarragon that's coming back, and I've decided to trim the sage plant back since it's gotten a little woody. Right next to the trough is a barrel with some irises that a friend gifted me a couple of years ago. They were covered by the fallen rose branches, but now that I've removed them, I'm hoping they'll get enough sun to flower this year. Okay, this is embarrassing. I didn't even take the tomato cages down last summer. But you know, I guess better late than never, right? With the yard mostly cleaned up, I'm going to set my Adirondack chairs in a seating group. I like the idea of having a place to sit here, and it'll also make for a nice focal point from the dining room window. With this being such a nice weekend, Chris has decided to make tacos al pastor, so while he's at the grill, let me show you some of the ideas I have for the design of the yard. I'm going to apologize in advance for my rather amateurish Photoshop skills, but now that the new fence is in place, I'd love to plant a border of perennial plants that spans the length of the fence and wraps around towards the gate. This will soften the look of the fence, and I'm really loving the idea of establishing a cottage-style garden vibe, so I'm planning on using plants like foxgloves, lupines, alums, and other similar plants, mostly in cool colors like blues, purples, and pinks. Next, for privacy and to bring a kind of romantic style to the garden, I'm envisioning a big wisteria along the top of the fence. The flowers will look gorgeous, of course, but once the leaves grow in, it'll provide a lot of privacy and make the space feel cozy and hidden, like a secret garden. And of course, having vegetables in the raised beds will also look great. When I browse images for inspiration, usually kitchen gardens with herbs and veggies are kept separate from the flowers, but I love the idea of mixing the two in one space. So it'll be pretty but also useful. The troughs will hold our herbs, blueberries, and tomatoes, and once the rosebush comes back to life, it'll add a nice burst of color. Next, adding some pavers under the Adirondack chairs will give a sense of permanence to the seating area, and the circular pattern will also bring some curves to the otherwise linear layout of the garden beds and troughs. And to make the seating area more of a destination, I think adding a fire pit will do a lot for that. One of the things I had to get used to when I moved up to the Pacific Northwest was that the evenings always cool down, so a fire pit is a really nice amenity. Finally, adding some string lights across the yard will not only provide light in the evenings, but also just having something overhead makes the whole space feel cozier. So here's my design for the side yard. I think it's cute, right? Alright, time to help Chris with dinner. While he finishes up the grilling, I'm heating up some beans and making some Mexican rice. I have to say, that looks pretty yummy. It's a wonderful way to cap off a sunny weekend, even if it's still a little too chilly to eat outside. And this is also the time to enjoy the peace and quiet here at the house, because we're about to start on some big home renovation projects. Stay tuned for the next episode to find out more. See you guys next time.